Legislature for 25 years. Came in to listen before most of you guys were probably born. I'm one of those type of people that was raised up in an environment where academic education wasn't going to be my strong suit. In other words, I was a troublemaker in school. And so I went on to be a mechanic, and then I went into the real estate business, and eventually I was a teacher for 3 years. That's a pretty dangerous thing. And so I did a little bit of everything before I decided to get involved in politics. A few years back, Senator Burton, who's the president pro tem of the Senate, came to me, and we became pretty good friends because we represented the same district. We both represented Johnson County. And he says, Ivy Tech ought to be a state college, and their credits ought to be good in all the colleges. I think that's a great idea. And he said, if I send you a bill, will you carry it over in the House? And I said, are you kidding me? In a heartbeat. And so he sent a bill over, and the president pro tem that sends the bill over, he's got a pretty good chance of getting some action over in the House because he is the president of the Senate at that time. So he sent the bill to me, and basically we had a little resistance from the larger colleges. When I say larger colleges, that's kind of a moot point at this time because the larger college is Ivy Tech. It wasn't, and there was some resistance about taking the credit, but we were fortunate in moving a bill that made Ivy Tech State College. And you've got some great people, Tom Snyder, Jeff Kirk, Kathy Lee, the chancellor. Those people have been very creative, and I strongly believe that education has had to make a big change. It is making a big change right now because times are changing. The Speaker of the House put me on the Education Committee last year for the first time. And I said, well, Mr. Speaker, you're either doing it because I'm a hillbilly or you don't like me. And he said both. But being on the Education Committee, he knew how I felt about this kind of education. I think academic education is great. I think people that want to be attorneys, surgical nurses, doctors, I think we need to have that and we need to continue on. But the real bread and butter in this country are the people that run the businesses, the people that have to have the high technology today to do the things. You know, if you work at the Honda plant, you're not sitting there turning bolts, you're running a computer. It's just a whole different world. When years ago, I was a truck mechanic, and to listen to an engine that had a bad noise, I would take a broom handle and put it up against the engine and listen to it. You can't make this stuff up. Now, it's like a computer in the dash, and it tells you the turn signals work. It's just a different world. But I think the key thing is that schools like Ivy Tech, particularly Ivy Tech, has done what I think is a stellar job in thinking outside the box and coming up with creative ideas to educate our people for the workforce of today and tomorrow. It's changing by the minute. And we get a little resistance in the Education Committee to some of these things because we have to think that way. The technology is here. You know, you come up with some new idea based on some new technology, and they just changed it 5 minutes ago. And trying to keep up with that is difficult. And Ivy Tech has done a stellar job. Their campuses all over the place. You know, you go to one of the bigger or one of the major colleges, academic colleges, $25,000, $30,000 a year. $3,500 you can go to Ivy Tech and you get an education. And in 18 months you can go out and make a really good living. Some of the things that we're doing, just to give you a little line on the Education Committee, because they asked me to say a couple things about it. We're working on a preschool education bill, a pilot program. We're going back and forth with the Senate on how that should be done, but that's in the process right now, what we call conference committees, where we're trying to figure out our differences. The Technical Career and Education Diploma, one of the things I've been fighting for years is that for years we changed it to the graduation qualifications in high school where you had to have 40 credits under certain academic standards. And I've been fighting for years to say we need a different type of diploma because not everybody is going to be a doctor or a surgical nurse or an attorney, and we need to change that. So House Bill 1213, which is moving, is changing that. It's one of the Department of Education is creating a career council to develop a curricula that's going to allow for a different type of diploma for technical and highly skilled jobs. And it'll still have certain requirements. It's still going to have the STEM activities, the activities that talks about scientific education, those type of things. But it's going to be a type of diploma where not the people like me, the ones that wasn't going to be a doctor, believe me, you don't want to give me a surgical knife. But people that's going to go out and become very successful, open businesses, and be successful in life. The other thing, too, is adult education. When the economy went south a few years ago, we had a lot of people that lost their jobs because businesses closed down, and they've been working for 25 or 30 years in an area that technology is gone now, and they weren't qualified for new jobs. So we're going with some adult education things in legislation to encourage adults to come back and get not a GED, but a regular diploma where they can graduate and get higher education. We're doing things for the veterans. When they come back, if they served our country and they want to come back to this state, they can do it. So I just want you to know that I'm very proud to have the honor of standing up before you folks, because you folks are the bread and butter in this country. You're what makes it tick. And anything I can do to help Ivy Tech in the future, I'm going to continue to do that. Jeff Turp's a good friend of mine, and we constantly kiss. Let me just give you an example of one of the things he brought to me. I don't know where it's at this point, but you have your standard math courses you take to graduate. Ivy Tech is working on the concept of coming up with different types of math degrees because there's different types of math that you need for different technologies. And we got some resistance from the education committee at first because somebody said, well, that's dumb and keep that. I said, I don't think so. I think that's sharpening them up even more. So we're doing those kind of things. We're going to continue to fight for those things. And again, I just want to say thank all of you for educating yourself, moving on, and God bless every one of you. If I can ever help, let me know. Thank you. The young lady in the back there has a question. I can't hear her.
What's your question? I'll relay.